The powder room. The powder room.
Oh my golly gosh! Don't you just love a room that's full of energy? Thank you, guys. I love it. It's going to be a good one tonight. I can sense it in my bones. Well, look, tonight we thought we'd dedicate a whole hour to the very important subject of social media, mental health related to social media, the effects of over these long years that we have been wrapped up with the internet. And of course, we couldn't do that without the powerhouse that is Selwyn Figueres. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Very kind.
Okay, so there is so much to cover, and it doesn't feel like an hour is going to be long enough, so we're going to dive straight in there. Of course, we want your opinions. If you want to say hi, you're welcome to too. But do you agree with the ban coming up on social media? What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? What is your experience or the difficulty of parenting a child who is on his phone a lot of the time? Tell me all about that on WhatsApp 540-55200 and I shall read your messages out. Everyone is welcome. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Why in God's name was it ever invented?
Yeah, well, I think we ask ourselves that every day, really. No, I mean, I won't sit here and pretend that it's only a force for bad, because I think it has been a force for good, especially for people looking for their community, looking to communicate and connect with people all over the world. I think it's been tremendously positive, as has the internet on balance been, tremendously positive. But as with so many inventions throughout history, you embrace them, you use them, and it's only after a certain amount of time that the cracks start to emerge and you start to understand what the unintended effects were. And I think it's become very clear that there are many unintended effects of social media, that it is like a drug, which of course the tech companies have created specifically with that purpose in mind, and that of course, like drugs and alcohol, well, drugs certainly just illegal flat, right? But in relation to other things that we know are harmful, like tobacco, like drinking, and various and other activities, they're gated at the age of 16. And as evidence has been emerging over the last 3 or 4 years, I think it's when it's been gathering most of its momentum. Even though you can trace the moment when everything changes back to 2012, it's really only been in the last 3 or 4 years that...
Why do you say 2012? What changed?
Well, I mean, I always refer to 2012 because I refer to the guy out there who is considered controversial by those who don't agree with what I and Smartphone Free Childhood Gibraltar are campaigning for. That he looks at the data. He's a psychologist, and he looks at the data and he sees that in 2012, everywhere, mental health starts to go off a cliff, especially youth mental health.
Yeah.
And that coincides with the arrival of the selfie camera on most devices, the newsfeed algorithms.
The selfies, yeah.
Yeah, the newsfeed algorithms being deployed by the social media networks. And it's at that point that suddenly social media, which was the Garden of Eden when it first started coming about and we all started using them between 2007 2012, becomes something completely different. And so in the last 3 or 4 years, momentum has built, and there's a lot of evidence now emerging about harms, and there's a lot of very high-profile cases where these tech companies are being taken to the court in the US, where they're being held to account. And they're resisting having any kind of responsibility for those outcomes, because clearly there's a real harm that they don't want to be responsible for. So what's very exciting, certainly for me and for the rest of us in Smartphone Free Childhood Gibraltar, is that Keir Starmer, the outgoing Prime Minister, a couple of weeks ago said that although he wasn't a fan, he wasn't of the view that a ban was the right way to go, which is very interesting. And he commissioned a few studies and a consultation where over 100,000 people participated. And it was only after all that happened and after meeting the parents of a lot of these children who have died, passed away, or otherwise suffered harm, and leaders of the tech companies that he decided the ban was the only way to bring the protection to children that he now considers, after all that investigation and understanding, is necessary. So that's now announced, and now we're waiting to see how that happens. But of course, we're going to have a new prime minister on July the 20th as well. But he seems to be on. He seems to be on with the agenda for doing this.
Well, it seems that the whole of Europe is going that way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's not only UK and Spain.
yeah.
Spain is
Exactly.
talking about
Spain tar muy delante
Spain,
of these
Spain, yeah.
things.
They really are. They really are.
Yeah.
And obviously, as there's another element to the UK ban, which is also something that other jurisdictions are going in the direction of. There's so much news almost every day in this front that it's hard to keep up. But I think it was in Denmark or in the Netherlands where they have decided that they're going to ban AI companion bots to a minimum age of 18. Because AI is another frontier in the challenge, and that was still very in the very early stages of understanding, no?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the thing, because we've had to battle with the social media aspect.
Yeah.
Now we're having to battle with AI, which is incredibly dangerous. I just heard recently, actually, that these AI bots that are like girlfriend and boyfriend
Yeah, exactly, the
things,
companion bots, yeah.
One child killed himself at the age, I think he was 12, because he believed he'd made her into, what's that girl from the Game of Thrones, the princess?
Yeah.
He'd called her that, and it was so real, he'd lost touch with reality, and he was so involved in it. He actually believed that dying was the only way he could be with her.
Yes, and I think I remember reading that story. Yeah, but again, I think it's important that we make sure that we don't demonize the technology as a whole, because of course it has its very positive impacts, right? In terms of the discoveries that we expect, the discoveries we're already seeing, and certainly in
How do we
healthcare.
control it? Where's the line?
And that's
line.
the regulatory debate, right? And the regulatory debate right now, unfortunately, sits principally with Donald Trump in the US, right, who is romanced and supported financially by all these tech companies.
Yeah.
And so his view
Money.
is let them run, and when something breaks, we'll fix it. And if the break isn't too bad, then we won't pay too much attention to it. And he's in a real head-to-head with the EU, because the EU is pushing quite hard to regulate AI itself already anyway. It's the only place in the world that has an AI Act as such, because again, it's very difficult to do. And so the politics of it, of course, is fundamentally important, and it steers things in the direction that the person who's shouting loudest, who has the most power at any given moment, does. And universally, the tech companies seem to be obviously very powerful because of how much money they move with these.
This is what I can't get my head around, how humans are twisting and turning, driven by power and money and greed, that they have lost all sense of conscience until it happens to one of their kids.
Bueno, pero you were saying que Trump, but the truth is that it's also, there's a lot of young mind manipulation going on as well. So you have the warped sense of reality. You have children that think that TikTok videos are real, and they start to believe news that is not real as being real. Then you have extreme other forces controlling masses to believe certain things, which then creates hate towards smaller minorities.
That's very much AI as well, and not recognizing
all the time.
false.
But entonces it becomes a weapon. It actually becomes a weapon. Porque después son niños, grow up con ese warped sense of reality
for sure.
de quién es quién, and they might have a warped sense of reality against the LGBT community, for example, and they grow up pensando ciertas cosas which are wrong. And even there was a point that they were saying el machismo. And they were talking about the boys watching this,
the manosphere,
about watching about relationships, intimacy in a way that is destructive.
Yes.
Que no hay amor.
It's
all that is horrific. So you're creating a generation of adults that can have tremendous
it's very difficult
problem to live in the reality of life.
And with crime and all the knock-on effects that come with it. It's
but
incredibly dangerous.
it's super important that, the social media itself was not the problem. It's not the
Yes,
connection. It's not
correct.
the communities that people find online,
Correct.
which are super important, especially in a
Claro.
small place like Gibraltar, right? Those communities are very important to find online. It's the machine that sits underneath it and what that machine feeds and serves up to people who are on the surface, trying to find these communities and what it might mean. I mean, we've covered this before. If you sign up as a 13-year-old girl on TikTok, within something like 8 minutes, these are tests that these organizations have done, within 8 minutes it'll be serving you self-harm content. And if you sign up as a 13-year-old boy, within the similar time frame, it'll serve you manosphere content, right? And so that's the issue. It's not the connection. It's not the WhatsApp, and it's not the social media to the extent that we were connecting and following each other, which is what it used to be. It's the machine that developed beneath it, which, of course, turns on. The customer is not the user, ultimately. The customer is the advertiser that's leaving the money for the tech companies.
It's crazy.
And the product is the user being on the platform for as long as possible, because then there's more opportunity to consume advertising that they can then charge for.
Just want to read out a quick message from Derek. Banning social media for those under 16 is a perspective shared by many who are concerned about the potential negative effects on young people's development. Here are some reasons why some believe this is a good idea. Protection from harm. It can shield children from cyberbullying, inappropriate content, and online predators. Yes, it can.
Yeah.
Amongst so many other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just talk about what happens in Gibraltar. I've got some stats here. They did a survey, the GHA did a survey, you will probably be very well aware of this, of 2,500 students. It doesn't say the ages, though, on late night use.
Yeah.
This time where you're saying, venga, a la cama, closes the door, and you have no idea what your children are doing behind the locked door in their room.
Yeah.
Shockingly, 34% of girls and 25% of boys were on their social media or phones up until they actually fell asleep. 12.7% reported feeling no connection to their classmates. This is Gibraltar. GHA has had a worrying increase in hospital admissions linked to bullying and social media, direct link. Referrals to Gibraltar Young Minds has doubled in a short period to nearly 300 annual cases. And what we want to talk about, which is the ban, as it stands, 64% of Gibraltarians support the ban, and that aligns with the UK and Australia as present. Let's show you a clip now, just taken recently before school shut down for the summer, of what our young people are thinking about social media. Take a look.
The concept behind it is a good idea, but realistically, the execution would be incredibly difficult because everyone uses social media, even from the age of like 10, I think people start using social media such as Instagram, TikTok, just for watching reels, and because everyone's addicted to the dopamine rush now.
Obviously, a lot of people use social media that are under 16, and like, to be fair, it's a good pastime if you don't have anything to do.
It would be quite a good thing because a lot of young people use social media quite a lot, but at the same time, if it's not really negatively affecting them, we don't really need to ban it too much.
I think it should because people post really inappropriate things and stuff.
I don't mind it, but I don't love it because it should be the parents' choice and they should know if their child's mature enough.
Like, it's not good because people need to entertain themselves, and like, they need to entertain themselves because you don't really have anything to do if you don't really have your phone, because nowadays people mostly use their phones.
I think it's good and bad because it's good because like to get the children out and a lot more and like to save them from like some bad stuff. But I also think it's bad because some people like it and to message and stuff. But I think it's good and bad. I don't know really.
I don't think it should be banned and instead because government shouldn't be getting involved. Instead, it should be a problem for the parents and also the apps that they're banning, like YouTube. Like I doubt a lot of people use YouTube anyways, and yeah, if they like there's some things that they can ban and some things that they shouldn't ban. They shouldn't ban literally everything.
I don't think it should be banned. I think it's very good because like when I need to message my fellow friends in the morning to meet them before they can give me my things, it's necessary.
Personally, I don't think it's very good because it's an easier way to communicate with friends and family and like find new people to talk to, and it can also be very entertaining.
Well, I have to say, a lot of those comments infuriate me. It really does infuriate me because they're nonsensical. Why do you need to message your friend when you're just meeting him at school. You know, little things like that. Why are you saying that it's a good thing because just in case there's nothing else to do? I have never seen a country with so many things to do for all ages than Gibraltar. I am sorry, I was a teenager, as were you, in a closed frontier, and I was always doing something.
Always busy.
Fishing, hanging out with my friends, going to... Whatever the case was be, I was on the streets with people, making friends, talking, communicating. I cannot believe that they think there is nothing to do in Gibraltar.
But with that, because you mentioned before, it's not all bad and it's got wonderful things. Realistically, half of it, I wonder when it's true, not true, you know, if it's the facts are correct. And that, pero después think about it. I went to school... The internet came in, I'm not that old. Internet came in, I did have access to that. But we had books, we sat in group projects, we studied together, we worked within the classroom using the internet, and we had accessibility. We weren't completely Stone Age, but then now it's like, oh, it's so beneficial. Yeah, we managed to get a good education, we managed to learn to interact, to make friends.
Yeah, but I think the difference is that you had dopamine receptors, as the kids now have dopamine receptors, but we were never subjected to the dopamine hits that you are. And I think, you know, as infuriating as the comments can be, because we don't understand them, I don't think somehow delegitimizes the reality of the experience of the kids who are talking and saying the things that they are, because ultimately this is their life experience, right? And one of the things that hate says so much is a problem, is that we moved life away from a play-based childhood to a phone-based childhood in such a way that when the phone's not there, there's no recollection, no memory, no muscle memory of what, you know, enjoying or entertaining yourself was like when the device was not around. And so I find those comments hard to listen to as well, because of course I don't identify with them, but I think they're entirely legitimate, and I think that there's nothing damnable about it, in the sense that the kids just have that experience, especially the ones who, from a very young age, have had a huge proportion of their life spent behind the screen. No, no saben otra cosa. ¿No?
Pero hay que empezar somewhere.
I agree. Pero si tú le dices, córtate el brazo...
the parents, though.
The problem is
Surely
que si tú...
it's awareness and education of the parents, and that is something that you're going to pass down to your children. You're not going to give them an iPad at 3.
Sí, pero a lot of the parents are into it too.
Or they don't understand it.
No, a lot of parents, escúchame, I like mi telefoncito. Let's not, you know what I'm saying? Let's not be ahora aquí santo de esto. Pero,
that's somebody who likes to have a glass of wine and doesn't have a bottle.
No, I'm a flat out addict. I mean, I've got 5 or 6 hours of screen time a day, partly worky, partly porque también I'm an addict, right?
Pero it's work.
But what we have that the kids don't have is A, the age. To varying extents. But B, the experience of having had a life without these devices, and without these sources of entertainment, right?
Sorry, and I think we also saw that as well, like in COVID. I think we also saw that even when we have power cuts, how many people will freak out in the time of a power cut?
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden it's people like, I speak on my own perspective, sorry, my own personal experience is that I was at school, you know, I saw both sides of the coin, you know, but I was at school when internet wasn't being readily used.
Yeah.
And then we saw a stage where it was introduced, and you kind of have different resilience measures. You kind of have different methods of working, and there was nothing wrong in that day and age of going to say, oh, I'm going to go and knock on Sally's door. And you'd... Yeah,
for sure.
Y te pasaba tú por el patio, and you go, I'm going to go...
What happened to reading a book?
I do that.
Again,
reading a book is comparatively boring, but because it's not giving you the dopamine hit every 4 seconds a reel is giving you, and that's not
when you were into Mills and Boon at my age.
I'm sure. But the design of these things is such that books simply can't compete.
Yeah.
Books simply can't compete, and that's why the ban, like in the experience of Australia, where the enforcement hasn't been phenomenal in the sense that there's been no blocking of VPNs, and VPNs are the immediate, very quick way to get around it.
No?
But in the UK, I've read comments today that Andy Burnham, the new Prime Minister, is considering a ban on VPNs as part of the ban on social media, because, of course, they've seen that in Australia. You can very easily get around it, right? it truly is a simple matter of kids these days are just wired completely differently. And I'm experiencing it with my son at his age at this point, and I'm having exchanges with him about exchanges he's having, and I'm taking, you know, hours, maybe days to fully process how different it is before trying to have a conversation with him, a conversation that's not a slanging, shouting match or whatever, because those aren't very productive. Because it just bears such little connection to what my experience of youth was back in the dark ages.
See, but what you were saying before about the teachers that you went to school, why did it seep into our school system anyway? Yo eso nunca lo entendí from day one. Why did it become?
COVID was a big thing.
Why did but okay, so they could have gone back to normal.
Yes,
no,
once they got the smell of a good thing, you don't go back to normal.
You open Pandora's box, which COVID was in so many ways.
I don't agree. I think that was a mistake, and I think it's not even like, bueno, mira, porque ya you can't retrace. I think.
But that is something that they can change. Let me just read a message here. Hi, last summer, whilst at the beach, there was a big group of youngsters. This is the kind of thing that we see all the time. And they were all lying down in a circle, and all of them were on their mobiles. My husband said, en nuestra época, íbamos a estar tirado, we would be running around playing football or playing in the sea. It's actually sad that they don't even go out and talk. 100%. They are losing so many skills. I mean, again, where was it?
See, but that's
12.7% reported feeling no connection to their classmates.
But going back to that comment, I've noticed that, Vale, the rest of us, we were all playing with the ball, wreaking havoc. And I see a lot of comments nowadays on Speak Freely and all that. People complaining. Kids go out, they make noise. They're inconvenient. They're annoying because the adults who didn't have that upbringing are now liking the silence that is being broadcasted. No me molestan. But then we complain.
Yeah, in Australia there were lots of these memes of adults being super annoyed that suddenly kids were hanging out, making noise again.
They can't win.
Right?
So true.
I mean, but I'm of the firm belief that, personally, you know, that I think change needs to start at the top, because I feel like it's what we are fed down the chain that then influences what we consume. And I've always had a question around consent about what is consumed on social media. Because if you look at the very top of each, you know, of the pyramid, let's just call it that, or the very top of the chain, we've just said it before, it's about monetization. And it is the quickest way on the planet Earth to access so many humans, so many consumers at the same time and have such a quick turnover. And I think it is a particular country's, not one particular, not Gibraltar, not any particular country, in general, each country's own governmental responsibility to harness what their own community and what their own society is being fed on social media. Now, me personally, maybe I would probably, if, you know, like, you know, franchise it and, like, as an example, have, I'm not going to name one particular social media platform, but have platform A, like Gibraltar, platform A, UK, England, Ireland, America, Australia, you know? So it's something like that. And then it's the government's responsibility to see what is being filtered, because you can put all the filters on as you want on social media. But if the right person is paying the right amount of money for the right advert,
you see the content.
They're literally going to, and again, so yes, we're talking about the ban, and I do agree, but we also have to look at what consent are we gaining from people, the user, if they actually want to be exposed to that content in the first place?
I mean, the simple answer to that is that when you signed up, like I did for Facebook in 2007, you agreed to the terms and conditions. Yeah, of course I read them. Of course I read them. Let me in. But then, claro, in 2007, and it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you to hear this, to say it, which is 20 years worth of changes to terms and conditions that I have never looked at, right? Entonces, that's where the consent is.
Exactly.
The other angle to that is that when the companies that create these platforms are big, massive tech companies based in the US, and they're like, well, if you don't like it, I'll just switch off the service in your country.
There we go.
Y se te encima al pueblo in your own country because I get they're going to do that. Because it's happening. It's happening in the conversation around the UK. So Trump was saying to Starmer, don't do the social media thing, no me gusta bien. And in the EU, in the context of fines for various other reasons, Google in particular, in an antitrust matter, Trump is saying, if you find them, we're going to switch off the Google search engines there, and we're going to do... And, and the trade deal is off the table. It doesn't matter that we have one.
But again, it comes
Tariffs
down to
for everyone.
It's crazy.
Again, it's monetization, it's access to your community,
It's a growth engine for our country, right?
And it doesn't what influence that government wants to put out there.
Yeah.
Sí, but what is the argument of like the Trumps of this world? Que entonces we are shutting down the other side of the argument if you don't have the youth seeing it. Si tú tienes un way of life y ese niño más que ve ese way of life no está viendo todos los otros ways of life. You know what I mean? So that's el Trump dice así. That's what I'm hearing.
I don't even think Trump's thinking gets that far. Trump's thinking is Google, not Google so much, but you know, que si X, que si SpaceX, que si Facebook, que si Meta even, and all the others are saying, this is the growth engine, this is how much we're generating, this is how much we're leaving in the economy, and this is how much support we're giving you. Any kind of tweak to that growth engine that underpins what we're doing, any tweaking of it will affect the bottom line, and we'll be generating less. Y la política de Trump, I think, is as simple as que va a ganar menos, pues que no se toque, que ganen más, no menos. It's la realidad. It's much more nuanced in other places in the world that we look at and think, un poquito más sofisticada la política ahí, right? Pero as far as Trump is concerned, I think it really is as simple as that, because that's the people he has around him saying, oh yeah, you can't do that because as soon as... And of course, there's also the narrative around, of course, because if you're going to have to identify whether they're 16 years of age, you're going to have to identify everyone, and that's breach of privacy because you're just mining data on us. And again, that's a nuanced discussion as well, because there's zero knowledge proof. There are ways that you can take what you need to know about the person, i.e., are you over 16, without taking any more knowledge than that. And therefore, the civil liberties issue can also be managed as well. Pero, claro, different camps will argue differently. Yes. And there are very simplistic arguments that can be made very simply on social media. With a 4-second TikTok, they quieren quitar social media, or they want to know everything about you, which, of course, that's what captures the zeitgeist in the moment. It's much harder to make the reasoned, explained, informed explanation of what's going on, because people are switching off, because people's attention span is now 3.5 seconds.
Incredible, isn't it? I just want you guys to watch this next clip. Okay, so Sir Keir Starmer, he talks about the ban, he implements the ban, it's going through. This is what one child in the UK thought, and then I want your thoughts. Take a look.
Tell me how you felt when you heard the Prime Minister say no more social media for you.
I didn't think it would actually happen. I kind of believed that he'd chicken out of it and give it more time or more consideration, but he seems pretty sure of it, and I'm not sure if I agree with him.
So suddenly you're going to have a lot more time to fill, and what will you do?
Stare at a wall.
What are your thoughts? Take into account that she's been asked a question, and the very, very first thought that crosses her mind is, I'll stare at a wall. You can pass it round.
Aquí está bien.
Sí, sí.
Yeah.
Ahí está bien.
My understanding is, compared to everything that you guys have said, con eso, is the cost of living has gone up. And in Gibraltar especially, everything is going up. You expect people to go bowling every week. Y no pueden. Antes vosotros tenías discoteca y esto lo otro.
Oh, you're talking about things to do?
Sí, there is nothing to do.
The summer program is on.
The summer program, pero eso
doesn't cost anything.
Does it not?
No.
Pero
unless it's the odd private club, it's free.
But you're expecting everybody to do that.
But that's obviously just 16, no?
There's a lot. There's all the calentita, the summer nights.
Pero eso cuesta dinero.
No, eso es verde. That's free.
But it's still calentita night costs money to go to.
Oh, you mean for them to go but it's a place that they can go and hang out and listen to music. They don't have to buy a hot dog.
But if you go to calentita night, are you not going to buy some food?
Yes.
Are you not going to enjoy the environment?
Likely.
Si tú vas a calentita night, ¿tú qué crees? Que yo que tengo 15 años no quiero ser la misma cosa. I don't want to do the same thing.
Yes, yes.
Todo cuesta dinero.
Yeah.
And lo que un cinema ticket costaba una libra when you were my age, y ahora me cuesta £9.50.
That's relative as well, because I didn't get any pocket money when I was your age.
Sí, pero without pocket money nowadays, there you can't do
There are
anything.
many families that can't afford it.
Yeah,
That's
I-
true.
I-
That's a
I-
good
I think-
point.
I think- I mean,
Yes.
I
Lo
think
que
you
no
make,
entiendo
I mean,
yo-
you make a very valid point en el sentido de que la vida está muy cara. Like, cost of living is, of course, a real issue, and it's a real issue for a lot of people, certainly in other parts of the world, also in particular in Gibraltar. But of course, and again, I'm going to sound like a dinosaur again by referring to my own story, right? Y claro, because I suppose that the extent to which I needed to do something more or less exciting to be distracted in order to pass the time with my friends was probably at a lower bar in terms of lo que me hacía falta hacer para sentirme distraído than it might be now, of course, because if you're of a particular age and you've already connected to that world, and you've connected to so many of your peers and your friends in that world, and you've spent a lot of time already passing the time on the screen because that's just what's been available and what everybody's done, and of course it's been cheaper certainly because devices aren't free for sure, but they're given to you, and at that age invariably they are. Then I absolutely understand, and I was saying earlier before we went on air that for most kids who have already started on that journey, who have already been exposed to the social media and who have built their lives on the devices and on those platforms, it's something that I don't underestimate is going to be very, very tough for those that get caught. I mean, there's a 15-year-old here who will probably be 16 by the time it happens, and so he's going to be okay. But I mean, my 11-year-old's like, in serio, is that going to happen to me? It's already happening to your brother, so it almost doesn't matter, right? But you're right. It's not easy to go from. Certainly, I'm not expecting that it'll be easy for someone who is maybe 13, 14 at the time to go from having that to not having it, and I certainly wouldn't pretend to say, oye, just go y date vuelta en bicicleta, or when you're old enough, coge la moto, date mandazo como dábamos nosotros, and get up to no good, because people can still record. I mean, that's one of the things we were saying, we'd get up to God knows what kinds of no good, and the only record of it will be in folklore. People, we'd be talking about it as friends years, and we still do. We had dinner last night, we were still talking about como la liábamos, partíamos todo, right? But it just lives in folklore. So I'm not worried that anybody's going to pull up too many pictures of me in those moments when people I'd rather forget. But you're right. It's true that it's a different environment right now in which you're growing up.
See, I mean, when I was younger, we'd go out and things like that. But I remember most of my experiences on a night out started off in Landport car park or whatever car park, and you had the doors open with some really sure sound system, and you'd all just sit and socialize and drink. I'm not encouraging underage drinking, but you'd have fun without having to spend money. Nowadays, as I can understand as well, our society has changed where if you did something like that, I'm sure someone would be calling the police.
Yeah, it's also true.
So we're not very accepting as well of allowing them the freedom to
roam and to
be outside and do those things.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, carry on.
The only thing that I understand is I go to university, but the only thing available is always in the summer. Right. What about during school? After school clubs? Non-existent.
Lo que hay hay mucho after school.
Hay mucha, pero todo cuesta dinero.
Sí.
I used to go to an art club y me costaba £45 the event.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
No,
life is very expensive.
Life is very expensive. Help. It doesn't help.
You say, as somebody who has grown up with social media, ¿vale? Mi padre, ¿vale? No te digo nada, que he's very techy.
Yeah.
Mi madre, at all, de nada.
Yeah.
Pero I've grown up with it.
Yeah.
Tú explícame si yo no puedo pagar for a McDonald's meal with my friends at lunchtime because the meals in school no existen.
Yeah.
¿Vale? And I have to go out for lunch.
Yeah.
Bueno, if my friends are all going to McDonald's, ¿yo qué hago?
Sí. And whilst you're absolutely right, I've already said that your experience as you've lived it is something that has already happened and now you're already living it. No? And but what's very important, certainly for me in this respect, is that when the high water mark arrives and we say, okay, de este punto para adelante, 16-year-olds are going to have it, there is going to be that transition where kids who were very close to that age but not quite are going to suffer the detriment in their minds of not having it. Not just in their minds. I don't want to deny it or somehow pretend that it's not real, but are going to suffer the detriment in their minds of not having access to it. There will be countless others who are 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age, who have not yet had it, who will not have had it, and who will, by the nature of these things, arrive at that point when they were banned, not having any sense of, hay que ver que me están perjudicando because I can't have it, ¿no? Y entonces, unfortunately, in these difficult situations, there's a moment at which I think there's a threshold at which you have to draw the line and say, okay, what's done is done, lo que ha pasado, ha pasado, and, you know, we can't turn the clocks back, no? And that is very true of pretty much everything. But drawing this line, to friends of mine who have very young children, I say, you know what, I'm delighted that this will happen because you're 3, 4, 5-year-olds. This will be a non-issue in your household because most people,
save them.
Most people, most kids won't have it, and therefore it becomes easier for your kid to not have it as well, because most kids won't. Subject, of course, to how inventive the kids are with VPNs and other solutions.
Just hold your thought there. We're going to come straight back to you because we've got to go for a very, very quick break. Welcome back. Well, we are in the throes of the debate. So we're going to go straight back to this young lady here who wants to have her say.
So I have a lot of opinions on the subject. I grew up in the little in-between where I had no iPad, no phone. The most I had is a VTech growing up. And then getting to my teenage years and then getting access to the internet very slowly. I feel like a lot of the kids nowadays, how they self-regulate is via an iPad. So when you take it away and you're like, oh, go play, they don't know how to play. Yeah. I was taught by older kids, school, like how to play on the school grounds. It was taught by kid, by kid, by kid. But if nowadays you're playing, I don't know, just video games or stuff on the iPad and you're seeing things, and you're not having that where my mom played a game and then she taught someone else and she taught someone else and then I learned that game from the same generation, there is no equivalent. And also there's a lot of third spaces that teenagers and kids used to be able to go to that are no longer allowed for them. Like where I live, you can no longer play on the bicycles or the scooters in the podium. When before I used to play on there. It's no longer not allowed. A lot of third spaces that cost no money are no longer not allowed because of loud noise and all that stuff.
That's a very interesting point too, because we're not living that now. So this is why your opinions are so important. Let me just say, as a mother myself, this is Gabby, I believe 90% of the blame is parents. That's a high percentage. Instead of encouraging kids to play outside, they encourage the use of social media. Example, I've been out to dinner and have seen parents give their kids their iPads or phone. Igualmente se habla.
Yeah. I think on the points you make, you're absolutely right that as soon as the cat is out of the bag, it's very hard to put it back in. And as soon as a child, and I know that Public Health Gibraltar did a survey, and they've done some studies into this, and one of the points that came out of their studies was that there were lots of kids arriving at nursery with an inability to turn a page, some to sit up because, you know, they were doing the pinching and stuff like that because they'd just been brought up with an iPad. And sorry, yes, you were going to say?
And I also have a lot more, but I feel like it should be on the parents to self-regulate the kids, to teach them how to self-regulate. I'm autistic, and with how social media, because when you're autistic, it gets worse a little bit when you're a teenager, and it gets heightened. Having to learn how to self-regulate when I had a phone just in my screen as a teenager was very hard, and it took a very long time for me to get to a place where I can work. And I feel like I do agree some of the points of this ban is very good, but also it is making a lot of data from people who do not give out their data to people, who do not put their phone numbers, do not put anything, and they just have an email. Having to force someone who has been in that space for 10 years to now give a random company who is known for having data breaks, who's known for selling data, their personal information
to use what they've used.
Yeah, I mean, that on the data side of things, the European Commission is a good example, I think, to look at because they're very keen on the verification of children being over the age of 16, and what they're talking about is a system whereby you'll be able to prove by giving. And it'll be a European Commission-run system. And again, this is another debate for another 5 hours, of course, because, you know, whether you agree with the Commission, whether you agree with the EU, and whether you agree with that kind of oversight of any one big power is another very big debate. But I think we can't catch all the bad guys at once, and we have to focus on one issue at a time. On the point of if you've been taught to self-regulate and whether it should be the parents' responsibility, I'm a little more generous with parents because as a parent myself, I'm very aware of the incredible pressure that the peer pressure at the parent level represents. And so if all the kids are getting the devices, the choice you are faced with is you give them something you think is not great for them, you don't actually know the full level of how bad it is, or having them ostracized and left out on their own and isolated, which again is not good. If I can just make the point on the self-regulation as well, what is alarming for me to see, for example, walking around Disneyland Paris, is a 2-year-old sat in a buggy in literal Disneyland Paris with an iPad in front of them. That's alarming to me, but I don't like being judgmental about it because I just don't understand what goes on behind people's closed doors, right? So it's alarming to me because it's not something I would ever countenance. But once that's happened, how do you take the device away from the child when they're 5, 6, 13? It's going to be traumatic.
Possible.
There's no doubt about that.
I mean, I personally...
Cycle needs to be broken at some point, and the parents, if we can't argue with the tech giants, the policies and the politics and the money of it all, it has to be broken by parents. And once we get, I mean, the following on the pressure group is substantial. And it's encouraging to see that so many parents are willing and acknowledge and are trying very hard to break this cycle. Once we set a precedent, maybe slowly but surely things might change. Do we have any more opinions upstairs? That gentleman there in the blue.
I'd like...
we can hear you loud and clear.
I'd like to focus on a point, and you said the battle with social media and the battle with these tech giants and the battle with AI.
Yeah.
Well, what about working with them? In the sense that, why don't we incorporate social media? Why don't we incorporate AI into the school curriculum? Why don't we educate young people to use AI, to use social media effectively and properly in a safe and supported environment?
That's a good point.
I mean, I'll give you an example. For GCSEs, I followed a number of subject-related influencers. For example, biology with Olivia was absolutely fantastic with getting me through my GCSEs. If the school can incorporate and teach us how we can utilize these great resources, because you spoke, I think, of how you had a great education growing up without social media and without AI. But if I can just take you back to 100 years ago, do you think you had a better education than somebody did 100 years ago?
No, I completely agree with you. I think it effectively used correctly.
Yeah.
It would be incredible, but how do you control it?
And how do you do that?
And the experience.
How
you were saying.
And my point is, you control it by educating young people to use it effectively. Imagine if every young person knew how to use AI effectively. Instead of writing one email every 10 minutes, they could write 10 emails every 10 minutes. Imagine how productive our economy, our society would be. Gibraltar would be booming. And I think we need to educate young people instead.
I think it's a very, very good point. And that might be a light at the end of a tunnel. But when you're talking about the GCSE, you're already, what, 16, 15?
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens to your addiction from 14 downwards?
Because
if we have a ban, say we had a ban, a blanket ban on social media, you can still WhatsApp, you can still research, you can still email, you can still play games, there's a whole lot you still can do. But if you had a ban and children from the age of 16 and below have had no access to social media and don't know how it works, then when they come to the GCSEs and you want to implement that kind of education, it might well work. So are you for the ban or are you against it?
Personally, I'm against the ban. Although I have to say, my point isn't that at 16, then they can incorporate social media. My point is more so that from a young age, we should teach them how to use it effectively so that when they are 16, they can utilize it to the best of their abilities.
But the parents are the ones that expose them first.
The ban, just to clarify, the ban is on social media apps
Exactly,
specifically.
social media.
I
Yes.
mean,
TikTok,
your point is
Facebook.
great, but Snapchat, for example, which is causing a lot of issues for kids, and there is a big thing with mental health going on around that. Realistically, Snapchat isn't going to enhance your education. Snapchat isn't. What you're saying is an excellent point, but the ban is on things that are causing more harm than good currently for younger kids.
The issue is, if I can just very quickly, just provide you with a little bit of insight from someone who agrees with you and is against the ban, but is the person whose story motivated me to be an activist in this way. That man is Ian Russell, and his daughter Molly Russell passed away, and the coroner in the UK found that it was through an excess. She took her life at the age of 12, and she'd, said goodnight and had dinner with the family the night before, prepared the bag for school the next day, went to bed with her iPad and her phone, and never made it through the night. And he is against the social media ban. But the reason why he's against the social media ban, I think, is very important, and it's to your point, which is we shouldn't be letting the tech companies off so lightly with a social media ban, which is incredible to hear, because you think, I'm going to ban you because the ban is not on the children, the ban is on the companies accessing the children, porque la culpa no la tienen los niños. Entonces, we're not going to let you off as lightly as banning you from having access to these kids, because, of course, you will continue to have all this harmful content. You will continue to have all these algorithms that are designed to hook people, because when you're 16, you'll spend your whole life being addicted, because these algorithms still do their thing extremely well when you're 16 and 60 as well. Por eso estamos todos enganchados. Entonces, his view is that the ban is just not the right way because it's not addressing what you can. And the point I want to make is that, of course, ideally, if you could add to a curriculum the proper use of social media and the proper use of other resources, like AI as well, which is the next frontier in the challenge in relation to childhood, it would be wonderful. But as a saying that I heard, which is pretty crass, but it works quite well, it's like asking social media companies to be helpful and not extract as much value from you is like asking water not to be wet. And they just don't want to do it because any tweak affects their bottom line. So I think it's a wonderful point, of course.
Selwyn, that opens up for very nicely into our next clip. So just to give you some context of this clip, it was recorded shortly after Sir Keir Starmer announced the ban, the up-and-coming ban. And it was recorded on, I think, the This Morning show. It's very, very impactful, I feel. Take a look.
My name's Lisa. My son Isaac died in 2022 to be a perceived online challenge. He was aged 13.
My son is Jules Sweeney. My name is Ellen Room. Jules died in April 2022 with what I believe to be something to do with social media. He was 14.
My name is Tanya, and our daughter Katie died in March 2025, we believe due to accessing harmful content online. Katie was 15.
My name's Mark. This is my son Murray. He died in December 2023. He was blackmailed. It was sextortion. He was 16 years old.
My name is Mariano, father of Mia. Mia passed away on March 2021. She was a victim of cyberbullying. She was 14.
My name's Louise. I'm the mother of Noah. He died from what I believe is a social media challenge in December 2021. He was 11.
My name's Esther. I'm the mother of Brianna Jai. Brianna died in February 2023. She was killed by two teenagers who had been accessing the dark web and harmful content on social media. The 2 years before Brianna was killed, she was completely addicted to social media. She had mental health issues, and I believe it completely ruined the last 2 years of her life.
It is incredibly hard to hear that. That's all very, very recent. This isn't something that happened all way back when. What are we waiting for? For it to happen here? Give me your thoughts on what you've just seen.
Can I just
the
jump
seriousness
in?
of
Can
this.
I jump in a minute? There is an element of inside of me. I was thinking about this. When a child wants to use social media, really wants to use social media, they will use social media. They get a parent's phone, del hermano, del amigo. También, it's a bit naive to think that we're going to say, there's now a ban, and everybody's going to say, okay, we're never going to use it again. I feel it's a bit naive, la verdad. And my fear is that what is going to happen is it's going to create an underground movement. En el sentido que ya you have your friend que está haciendo lo mismo, el otro, and then if you have children that are vulnerable and are being bullied or manipulated or worse, no se lo van a decir a los padres, porque they're going to be so scared of that it's illegal, encima se va a meter en el lío ese. So when you're that age, you're worried of that. O el lío que te va a meter con tu padre y la policía, porque tu padre te dice, como te meta, te voy a llamar a la policía. You might not, but you're going to say that. You know? ¿Qué pasa? El niño dice, espérate, I'm in trouble in school, I'm being bullied in school, and I'm on my phone, and I don't want anybody to know. No lo dice. So that is a problem too. That is something that I thought about.
No, and you're right, and it's a valid point. It's just that it's the same with alcohol consumption under the age of 16 and underage driving, drugs, and all these other all these gate kept.
No, mucho más available.
Oh no, and it's 100% exactly. It's just much more widely available. Yeah.
Can I just ask the audience then what your thoughts are on that clip? The severity that it actually happens. This isn't a pipe dream. It's the reality of the life we're living. You're living now.
It's going to sound a bit dark, but it's already happening here. It's already happening here.
Oh, it is dark.
Well, it is dark, but I feel...
Well, I'm glad you've said that to
because it's already happening here.
Because we need to talk about it, for sure.
It's already happening here, and it's happened probably to so many of us, and we've had to grow up and deal with, yo que sé cuánto times, que pegan en la puerta de tu vecino o algo, and you're like, oh God, what's happened there? You never know. It's happening to everybody, and I think lo que dijo él, you just have to educate everybody. It's digital literacy. It is digital literacy with
100%.
everyone.
Because the ban is not the panacea.
And
it's not the only thing that we need to do.
It's a plaster, but
and
it's
then
not
the
a
ban
cure.
where you said it's not WhatsApp, but it is WhatsApp because WhatsApp is considered a social media.
You can still bully.
Weapons-grade bullying.
The Keir Starmer's agreement is WhatsApp, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. So the conversations you were having of, oh, but they can use WhatsApp. Oh, they can use this. They can use that.
Won't include am I correct?
Well, I mean, I don't know because
I know
because I don't know because what the government has said is that they will certainly be watching very carefully and either go very quickly thereafter or si pueden antes.
I've heard that WhatsApp isn't included in the ban.
My understanding wasn't that WhatsApp was included, but in any event, you know, there's other messaging capabilities, right?
Yes.
There's other messaging capabilities like MMS, which are free and data-driven as well. And it's not, and I'm going to take your point, which I know you're going to make, which is completely valid, which is it's where all the groups are, yeah. And no, it wasn't. Sorry, I thought that. Sorry, it's where so many people are that it because to be honest, in my life as well, of course, WhatsApp is a core part of my daily experience, for better or for worse, often for worse. But it's no less escapable. I simply can't switch off from it much as I might want to. If WhatsApp is included, that is even harsher. And Ian Russell might disagree even more so with the idea of a ban that excludes WhatsApp. Because, of course, in WhatsApp se ven cada cosa que you're like, what is going on the planet, right?
Things go viral.
And the instinct is like, córtalo. But you're right. The que cortarlo solo isn't going to fix it.
No.
But cortarlo, the effect cutting it is going to have is that you're going to draw the line in the sand from the kids who are 3, 4, 5, 6 years of age today, who will be saved starting down that journey and having to be pulled back from it. It's not going to fix all the problems of the rest of the world's population who are older than 16. And that's another 3 days worth of debating.
Let me just speak to, can you pass the camera further up? I just want to get in a few more just general, are you for the ban, aren't you for the ban, or anything?
Half for me. I've got a 16-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter.
Right.
He doesn't use it. He's not on his phone 24/7. He uses it really to go to sleep. He's a very active child, but he gets a lot of issues when he's out.
Yeah.
People complain. He's at the beach playing football. He gets complaints. I get messages from people, your son's here playing football. He's playing football.
Yeah.
He's a loud boy. He's got ADHD also. So he's also on... He gets complaints everywhere he goes, and he's with this active group. Then you see the kids that are at home on the computers, they don't get complaints.
Yeah.
So he's in between wanting to be on his computer all day, but not wanting to because it's not what he does. So he goes, he plays his football. He goes to Spain to play football also because he also has issues in Gibraltar with getting into proper teams, which you also say they have a lot. I don't think youngsters in Gibraltar have a lot. No. As a mum with a 16-year-old boy, my son, to go out to have fun, he needs to go to Guardiaro. I need to drop him off and pick him up. And that's maybe once a month.
I agree with that.
Well, a lot of money is also spent. A lot of money is also spent. I used to go out with £20 for a whole weekend. I used to eat, drink, and do whatever I needed to do. Seriously. And I used to come home with pounds in my purse, still thinking, how? How? My son has to go out with minimum €50 when he goes out in Spain, and I have to give him more in case something happens.
Of course.
Right.
Because he needs that backup in case anything. Taxi, anything.
How old
can go
was
wrong.
your son?
16.
Right.
There's nothing in Gibraltar for nightlife. I'm talking about the nightlife side, maybe on
nightlife
afternoon
has always
stuff.
been an issue.
But on nightlife, when I used to be his age, I used to go out every Saturday, every Friday.
Yeah.
I was at home at 1, but I used to go out.
Yeah. Yes.
From 10 to 1. I was out with my friends, socialising and having so much fun. They don't have that anymore, and it's sad.
But I
Sad.
wonder to what extent, and it is... Sorry, carry on.
And the boy in blue, he's hit it on the spot. Like, if we educate the youngs, like my daughter at 6, she wouldn't get to what my son's had to get to now. The problem is the higher people being selfish. If we would have the higher people doing what they need to do, we wouldn't be in this position to begin with.
But it's just that they're just not going to, and that's
Exactly.
the problem.
So
and
this
that's
is
the problem.
now
And
it's
that's why there's
parents'
this
problems.
gatekeeping idea of at least proteger los niños,
Exactly.
so that when you're 16, you approach it with a different, because the science, not that I'm an expert, but the science from what I've read points to the development of the prefrontal cortex in such a way that until the age of 19, it's still being molded and still shaped, and so the US Health Surgeon General issued a warning a few years ago saying, look, the outcomes, the younger you go, in terms of exposure of children, the outcomes are so much worse. They're exponentially worse the younger you go, because when you hit the age of 14, 15, their development has reached a point where it's not as malleable, it's not as, it doesn't leave as permanent an imprint, and then that starts to fade in terms of effect beyond 16, 17, 18, right? Porque ya son más mayores, they have other capacities, and there is a resilience issue, which I think is a very relevant one, which refers to what you were talking about, which is, hay que enseñarlos cómo usarlo so that they have resilience. But we don't let children learn how to ride a motorbike until they're 16. No, we don't let a toddler learn how to balance on a window ledge, because we do things in a way that makes sure that they have that freedom to explore, to understand what it is they need to do and not. And this is a similar situation which we're facing anew. Lots of parents, in particular younger parents now, have been brought up with this in their life, and they're like, esto es la cosa más normal del mundo. Of course my son is going to have...
because I think
yes.
internet came out when I was about 9 or 10.
Exactly. So, already the fact that you were that age when the internet came out means that you weren't caught in the worst of the social media before you were a certain age, no? And so you have a perspective of when you used to go out. And I always wonder very often in these discussions how much of kids not going out to dance and have a good time and just have a good time with each other is down to the fact that and my son says I'm always overreacting with this, and this, people aren't recording all the time. I'm wondering how much of it is like, yo no me voy a lanzar porque como me graben, dame la que me lían.
I don't go to many events in Gibraltar now. I've always been someone that I love dancing.
Yeah.
I can't go to events anymore because I have literally 16, 17-year-olds. My son goes to the events because he's got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So it also removes us adults that like having fun from going to these events, because maybe 5 years back I used to be able to go when he was... I can't anymore because he's at the age that he goes.
I have to say that not only has the world changed, we have to give parents of teenagers some grace as well, because
for sure.
I have 2 sons and they were teenagers just on the brink of, and then at 16 they went to the UK to study. So I wasn't challenged in that area. I've never bought my sons a phone, ever bought my sons a phone. When they went to the UK, they sorted out their brick to communicate with me and let me know that they were okay. They were only 16, living on their own in the UK, solo. So But I do get that parenting and the challenges have changed with the advent of all of this social media and internet, and it must be very tough for you.
You can see a big difference within, my partner's 5 years younger than me, no, 6 years, sorry. And he's been more of the social media side than me. And you could compare it. It's a big
It's amazing,
difference.
isn't
To me,
it?
to him, the way we've been brought up, the way he thinks and I think, completely different ways. And it's because we're more street smart, you can say, than what we are AI smart and all this stuff. Because
what would you like to see happen?
I remember being in university and
I think
speaking
in
to my family
between.
5 minutes a week, and I'd be like, por favor, querer colgar ya, because I was done, right? And I was just speaking to them 5 minutes a week. Oh, yeah, everything fine, thank you very much. And
Once a week,
it's a completely different world.
It's
now
a
we
different
live in,
world.
right?
Different pressure.
I'm sorry,
that's
the
why
question.
I find it unfair to remove it so quickly from them.
It's
because
going to be
it's
really
normal
tough
to
on
them.
that generation, but I
Exactly,
think
it's normal to
Selwyn's
them.
got a very valid point. It's going to help the younger ones coming through. It's a bit like the no smoking ban in Australia, where they want to wipe it out completely. Those young 20-somethings that are smoking are going to really, really struggle. But the ones coming up through the ranks will never have seen a packet of cigarettes in their lives.
They're never going to
So
miss
I
it.
think that is the idea behind it, and that's what they're going to try and achieve.
But it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy.
My 6-year-old wants to be on social media all the time, but I tell her no. But she's have friends that are 6 and 7. They already have phones, and it's like they come outside my house and they're on their phones. She's like, "Mum," I'm like, "No, you're not having a phone. You can forget it." It's like that's the parents.
Yeah.
See, but at 6, I've got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I've gone to parties or in the beach, and they'll come up to me like, "Mum, I'm bored." "Darling, why are you bored? Go play."
Be bored.
No, it's not that. It's, no one wants to play with us. They're all on their iPads. And my kids love sort of building and construction, and they're very active. And they're just like, "But Mum, no one will play with us." I'm like, I don't know what to say to my 7-year-old and 5-year-old, because the others, so they just sit there and play with me or each other, because it's becoming the norm that they...
It gets very difficult because my kids have not been brought up on devices as much as other kids, which is not to say that they've not been on devices, because I've flown transatlantic and they've each had an iPad. We'll send me your kids and I'll need planning permission for the whole side they go to the beach, because frankly, it's just how I was brought up, right? But of course, if the kids around them are all on devices, then it's very, very hard.
It's very hard.
For those parents making the call.
We have to go. The whole hour has been eaten into.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you the last minute to summarise and see what is your vision for the future and how we're going to move forward. You get the last word.
For me, the vision is quite simple, even though I appreciate that it's not easy, and that there will be people caught up in the fire because they're old enough that they've already had exposure to it and young enough that they might find themselves deprived of it. And I don't see that lightly. I don't like being an activist. I much prefer a quiet life and not coming to these programs, right? But the reality is, and I know you might not believe it, but people who know me know how little I enjoy doing them. But the reality is that seeing what I see, seeing what I've seen, and understanding what I do, for me, it's just become an imperative to drive this. And it's not just been me, because of course there's such a global drive towards this now. And the point that you made about dancing is fundamentally one that always moves me almost in a way that it stops me being able to talk, which is great for you guys. And that is that my vision is that, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, kids are dancing again and having a good time because they're not having to worry about the eternal concern about being recorded, which my kids say doesn't happen anyway. I want kids to be able to have genuine fun and develop at a pace that we used to develop at, conscious as I am that it's not possible anymore, because childhood and youth is very different now, but at least slightly slower and slightly more protected, in my view.
Thank you so much for your time. We could talk forever, and you're such a mine of information. Guys, thank you so much for coming up and sharing your thoughts and opinions. It's been excellent. Okay, folks at home, that's it from us this evening. Back again next Monday, 9:05, with a brand new audience and a brand new panel. You're all off next week. See you then. Enjoy your week. Good night.
Thank you.